Rude employee humiliates old man at checkout. Regrets it the moment he finds out who he really is. Before we get into this story, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you enjoy stories like these, make sure to subscribe, as we upload at the same time every day. It all starts on an otherwise ordinary afternoon, right in the middle of the lunch hour rush at a high-end grocery store known for its polished floors, gleaming produce sections, and impeccably dressed staff. The place is called The Harvest Garden, a family-owned chain that has recently upgraded its decor to attract more upscale clientele. Customers bustle in and out, some clutching quick deli lunches, others filling carts with artisanal cheeses and freshly baked bread. A row of checkout lines stands at the front of the store, each with its own small cast of characters. Cashiers, baggers, and people lining up with full carts or single items. Everyone seems focused on getting in and out as quickly as possible. That is, until one particular cashier line comes to a standstill and curious eyes begin to turn in that direction. The line isn't moving, and the commotion seems centered around a single customer at the front, a quiet older man in a neatly pressed shirt and slacks who is in the process of handing over cash. He has kind eyes, thinning silver hair, and a gentle manner about him that should invite sympathy rather than scorn. Yet the cashier, a young employee named Tyler, stands behind his register with an unmistakable smirk. It's apparent he thinks this man is too slow for the fast-paced environment. Tyler loudly sighs, taps his fingers, and shifts his weight from one foot to another as if he can't believe he's stuck waiting on somebody who doesn't have a credit card or mobile payment app ready to go. The first red flag flutters within seconds. Tyler rolls his eyes at the elderly man. This is no minor eye roll meant for private frustration. He does it so obviously that everyone in line can see, and the older gentleman notices too, pausing as he rummages through his wallet. A few customers behind him exchange looks, uncertain whether to say something or wait and see if the cashier corrects his tone. But Tyler, apparently unashamed, doubles down by letting out a dramatic huff, tapping the side of the register with theatrical impatience. The tension in the air is palpable. Usually, if a cashier were having a rough day, they might mask it behind forced politeness, but Tyler isn't even trying to hide it. "Could you be any slower?" Tyler mumbles. He pretends he's speaking under his breath, but it's loud enough for the people directly behind the old man to hear. A few of them cringe, and someone mutters, "That's rude," under their breath. But no one steps in to confront him quite yet. The old man, whose name is Daniel, though nobody here seems to know it yet, catches Tyler's tone. He flicks his gaze upward for a moment, meeting the cashier's eyes with a look that almost seems more curious than offended, as though he's taking mental notes. Then Daniel returns to counting out his bills, not letting Tyler's impatience push him to fumble. He's methodical about it, carefully unfolding each bill to make sure he has the right amount. His voice is mild when he speaks. "I'm sorry, son," he says softly. "I just want to make sure I give you the correct total." Tyler snorts. "You want me to count it for you?" He casts a quick glance at a co-worker manning the next register, another cashier named Mia, and rolls his eyes again. Mia notices, her lips tightening. She's seen Tyler's attitude before, but this is a new low. He's basically humiliating a customer in public, and that customer happens to be an elderly man who poses no threat or annoyance to anyone else. Yet Tyler treats him like he's the day's worst inconvenience. The hum of the store's overhead lights and distant chatter of other customers forms a backdrop that only highlights how uncomfortable the moment is. The line behind Daniel begins to shift restlessly. Some customers debate switching lanes, but they're also curious to see how this is going to play out. The manager, a woman named Karen, is on her phone a few feet away, but she hasn't looked up once. Whether she hears Tyler's outburst or not remains unclear. Either she's ignoring it, or she's too absorbed in whatever's on her screen. Meanwhile, Tyler's frustration continues to escalate, as though he has no filter for what he should or shouldn't say in a professional setting. Daniel finally places the exact amount of cash on the little countertop between them. "Here you go," he says, offering a small smile. Tyler lets out another rude sound, snatches the bills, and begins counting them with snappy, exaggerated motions. He's muttering something about how old men shouldn't shop without someone to help them. The words aren't fully audible, but the tone alone is enough to let everyone know he's not speaking kindly. Someone 2 spots back in the line shakes their head, while the person directly behind Daniel looks genuinely upset on his behalf. There's a moment of pause as Tyler finishes counting. He slides open the cash register and dumps the money in, giving the receipt printer a slap, as if it's part of the reason for his annoyance. The receipt prints out, and instead of handing it politely to Daniel, Tyler crumples it slightly and drops it onto the counter. The piece of paper flutters to the floor. Daniel, trying to stay calm, bends down to pick it up. His knees don't bend as easily as they once did, so it takes him a second. Mia, noticing this, steps away from her station with a soft, "Let me get that for you." But Daniel waves her off politely and retrieves it himself. Nothing here should be that big of a deal, just a minor inconvenience. But Tyler's behavior magnifies every little thing. After Daniel straightens up, Tyler rolls his eyes again. "Have a great day," he says, and one can practically hear the sarcasm dripping from his words. Daniel thanks him quietly, gathering his groceries in a simple cloth bag. The line finally begins to move, but the atmosphere around that register is charged. Tyler forces a tight grin at the next customer, who looks at him with visible disapproval. A hush seems to fall over that small part of the store, as though everyone collectively understands they've just witnessed a disturbing lack of respect. Daniel, for his part, doesn't look especially angry. He looks more contemplative, as if the gears in his mind are turning. People move out of his way as he walks off to the side, the bag of groceries swinging gently from his hand. He stops just beyond the registers, appearing to wait for something, or perhaps just collecting himself. Mia watches him go, a knot of guilt in her stomach. She knows Tyler's a piece of work, but seeing that interaction shift from eye roll to outright disrespect stirs a sense of responsibility in her. She wonders if she should say something to the manager, or if that would only get her in trouble. Tyler, meanwhile, has turned his attention to the next person in line. He's forcing a sugary "how's your day going?" that rings hollow to anyone who's just witnessed his behavior. The new customer, a middle-aged woman with a strong stance, merely gives him a curt nod. She wants to get through this transaction as quickly as possible without feeding his attitude any more fuel. The cycle repeats. Scan items, drop them in. A bag, accept payment, push the receipt out. But the vibe is off. People sense it. Tyler's face is still set in a vaguely annoyed expression, and it's clear he's already looking for the next small inconvenience to seize upon. Daniel remains near the exit, occasionally glancing toward Tyler's register. Customers pass around him in a stream. Some recognize the tension in his posture and shoot him a sympathetic look, but no one stops to ask if he's all right. The store manager, Karen, is still on her phone. The rest of the employees focus on their tasks, either oblivious or unwilling to intervene in front of so many people. And so the stage is set for what will become an explosive and humbling confrontation, though no one quite sees it coming yet, least of all Tyler, who continues about his shift completely unaware of the man he's just belittled. Yet something about Daniel, his calm demeanor, his unwavering courtesy, hints there's more to him than meets the eye. He's not just an average customer, and the glimmer of resolve in his eyes suggests Tyler won't get off so easily in the long run. But for now the tension simmers in the background, and the rest of the Harvest Garden buzzes along without understanding the unfolding drama at checkout. Little do they know that before this day is over, there will be more than a few shocked faces, raised voices, and a rude awakening for the employee who thought it was acceptable to demean an old man just trying to buy a few groceries. Tyler continues ringing up customers, but the friction in the air refuses to dissipate. One might think that after such a rude interaction, he'd cool down, but in fact he seems agitated by the mere sight of anyone who might slow him down. He scans items quickly, throws them in bags, and mutters short, clipped remarks to each person who stands before him. Meanwhile, Daniel has eased over toward a small bench near the window, quietly removing a slip of paper from his pocket to check something. A couple of the grocery store's employees glance in Daniel's direction, sensing something unusual about his calm, observing nature, but none are quite bold enough to ask if he needs help. Mia, though, steals a glance whenever she can. She notices Tyler leaning over to a co-worker in the next aisle, whispering something with a smug grin. It's not hard to guess he's making another snarky comment about the old man, or the fact that old folks shouldn't be handling cash. Mia feels her cheeks grow warm with indignation. She's new here, but not so new that she doesn't understand how wrong this is. She wonders if anyone else feels the same. No one expects what's coming next, but the stage is set. All that's left is for Daniel to make his next move. And when he does, Tyler will regret every snide remark he's uttered in front of so many witnesses. The real show is just beginning. He has no idea who he's talking to. The second Tyler finishes with his customer, he glances around to see if the old man is still there. He spots Daniel off to the side and mutters something under his breath about people loitering. The tension is nowhere near over. And in this store, where appearances, customer service, and brand reputation matter a great deal, an encounter like this can set off a chain reaction. It's the calm before the storm, and Tyler, in his arrogance, has no idea that he's about to be caught in the center of it. The moment Daniel steps forward again, the clock on Tyler's behavior starts ticking faster. The rude remarks, the disrespect, they're about to catch up with him in ways he never imagined. And by the time it's over, every customer within earshot will remember this day as the one where a supposed nobody stood up to a bully, and the bully learned exactly whose toes he'd been stepping on all along. Daniel hovers by the produce display near the exit, still holding onto his receipt and the small cloth bag of groceries. He occasionally glances toward the registers, where Tyler continues to take out his frustrations on whoever's unlucky enough to be next in line. It's not a loud meltdown, but it's insidious. The haughty roll of the eyes, a smug grin, a quick jab of sarcasm slipped into an otherwise routine, "Have a nice day." There's a sort of efficiency to Tyler's unpleasantness, as if he's refined the art of being snarky without leaving enough evidence for most managers to call him out. But he's been careless this time, failing to realize that the manager in earshot, Karen, is too distracted to monitor the situation, and the older gentleman he just insulted might be more influential than he appears. Mia continues to watch from her station, scanning items for a middle-aged couple who exchange a concerned look over Tyler's attitude. She discreetly overhears a few sentences from them. "Did you see the way he treated that older guy? Absolutely disgraceful." The other nods, adding, "He's going to learn a lesson someday, it's not right." Mia wonders if she should speak to them, apologize or do something. But she's stuck behind her register, and the manager isn't stepping in. The first real rumble of concern in Tyler's mind starts when he notices Daniel is still there, not leaving. It's subtle, but a flicker of apprehension crosses Tyler's face when he realizes the man he brushed off so rudely might have some reason to stick around. He glances at Daniel, who offers him a calm, almost pleasant nod, which paradoxically makes Tyler more nervous than if he'd received a glare in return. Why is the old man so calm? Why didn't he just leave the store like so many customers do after they've been insulted? Tyler tries to ignore that gnawing feeling, focusing on scanning the next customer's cart items, but the tension in the pit of his stomach won't go away. Another red flag emerges, more blatant this time. As Tyler hands back change to a new customer, he grumbles, "Some people don't know when to leave," and obviously referring to Daniel. The customer, a woman in a professional blazer, frowns at Tyler. "Excuse me?" she says. Tyler pretends not to hear her. He busies himself with the receipts again, but the woman isn't letting it go that easily. "Were you talking to me?" she asks. Tyler fakes a bright smile. "Oh no, sorry, just thinking out loud. Didn't mean to offend you." The woman's not fully satisfied by this answer, but she takes her bag of groceries and walks off, giving Daniel a curious glance. As she passes him, Daniel returns her a polite nod, and she moves along. This is the second or maybe third time in just a few minutes that Tyler has allowed his frustration to bubble over and become clear to those around him. It's no small matter. In a place that prides itself on excellent customer service, a pattern like this can be enough to get someone reprimanded or even fired. And yet, Tyler seems to believe he's untouchable, perhaps counting on Karen's usual complacency. Or maybe he's convinced himself that customers won't bother filing a complaint. However, what he doesn't grasp is that Daniel is no ordinary bystander. There's a certain aura of control around him now, as if he's waiting for just the Right moment to make his move. He stands there with his cloth bag, glancing at his watch once or twice. He spots Mia looking his way, and he offers her a polite smile. She nods in return, a mixture of apology and sympathy on her face. She wishes she could intervene, but she's just a cashier with no authority. Karen, still absorbed in her phone, remains blissfully unaware of the meltdown forming under her toes. Finally, Tyler rings up the last customer in his line and closes the register drawer with a triumphant shove. For a second, it looks like he might get a short break, but then Daniel steps back into the area, standing at the side as if he needs something. Tyler glances at him, and for a moment, genuine annoyance flashes across his face. "Did you forget something?" Tyler asks, with a tone that suggests he hopes Daniel just leaves him alone. Daniel doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he looks around, checking if the manager is nearby, then rests his gaze on Tyler. "I was wondering if you might be able to spare a moment," Daniel says in a calm, measured voice. "You see, I noticed something I'd like to talk to you about." Tyler crosses his arms, looking around for support or a reason to excuse himself. None appear. Karen is in the back now, presumably, or maybe stepped away from the floor entirely. Mia is busy bagging groceries for another customer, casting worried glances their way. Daniel continues, "I wanted to speak with you about the way you handled a certain transaction." There's a slight pause, just enough for Tyler to shuffle his feet. The tension thickens around them. The air conditioner hums. Overhead lights buzz, and a couple of curious onlookers linger. Tyler's jaw sets. "Look," he says, "if it's about that receipt, I gave it to you, all right? I'm sorry if it got dropped." His tone suggests he's not actually sorry at all, just annoyed that Daniel isn't gone yet. "We're real busy here. If you're finished shopping, the exit's right over there." Daniel doesn't move. He simply tilts his head, studying Tyler's face. "Sometimes a little patience can go a long way in this business," he remarks. There's nothing combative in his tone, and yet Tyler bristles. "If you have a complaint," Tyler replies, "you can fill out a comment card or talk to the manager. I'm sure you know how these things work." Daniel smiles faintly. "I do," he says. "Better than you might think." Something about that statement unnerves Tyler. He doesn't have time to question it before another customer arrives at his register, apologizing because they just realized their cart is too full and they might need a second transaction. Tyler clenches his jaw, turning away from Daniel. "I have to do my job," Tyler grumbles. "Talk to me later or something." Daniel merely steps aside, letting Tyler ring up the new customer. However, the old man's calm presence at the edge of Tyler's vision continues to rattle the young cashier, who can't focus entirely on scanning the items. He fumbles a bag of produce, and the oranges roll onto the floor, prompting a few quiet snickers from nearby shoppers. A small flicker of embarrassment crosses Tyler's face, and his cheeks redden as he scrambles to pick up the fallen fruit. The customer helps too, giving Tyler a pointed look that seems to say, "Maybe if you weren't so preoccupied, this wouldn't happen." Tyler avoids eye contact, quickly finishing the transaction. When the customer leaves, Tyler lifts his gaze to see that Daniel is still there. An uneasy flutter stirs in Tyler's stomach, an emotion he's not used to, something that might be close to fear. Mia finishes with her own line and moves to restock some bags, sliding closer to Tyler's station. Her voice is low as she speaks to him. "Hey, maybe you should take a break. You seem stressed." It's a gentle suggestion, a kindness, but Tyler's not in the mood to accept it gracefully. "I'm fine," he snaps. "And mind your own business." He takes a breath, trying to reel in his temper, but he's already on edge. Daniel stands in the same spot, not moving, seemingly waiting for something or someone. At this point, some customers are openly staring, sensing that something big is about to happen. The entire store has an undercurrent of suspense. Though the overhead music continues to play cheerful tunes, the perfect stage is set for a confrontation. Tyler, prideful and rude, faces off against Daniel, calm and composed. All it's going to take is one more spark, one more nudge to make everything go from simmering tension to a full-blown clash that can't be ignored. And that spark is drawing closer. With every second, Daniel remains unwavering at the edge of Tyler's aisle. A new line begins to form behind Tyler's register, and a few people in it seem hesitant, glancing. Between Tyler and Daniel, whispers float through the store. Is that guy just waiting there to make a complaint? He looks too calm, like he's planning something. He doesn't seem angry, but you never know. Tyler tries to ignore them, scanning items with mechanical precision, not bothering to greet customers with any genuine warmth. Each beep of the scanner is punctuated by his curt instructions. Credit or debit? Okay, sign here, next. Meanwhile, Daniel bides his time, completely unruffled. If he were an ordinary customer, he might have given up by now, maybe gone home or found an actual manager to speak with. But he's doing none of that. Instead, his gaze occasionally sweeps across the store, taking note of employees, how they behave, how they treat customers. Then his eyes settle back on Tyler with a calm that borders on unsettling. Tyler can't take it anymore. He slams the register shut after finalizing a payment. Look, old man, he mutters, raising his voice a notch. I told you, if you have some issue with me, take it up with the manager or fill out a complaint form or do something else. Stop staring at me. All eyes turn to Daniel, who does nothing more than return Tyler's glare with a gentle, unwavering composure. For a moment, it's as though time stretches out. The tension has reached a pitch and it's about to break. People who had been minding their own business just a moment ago shift their attention to see what the old man will do next. Mia watches from a few feet away, practically holding her breath. She's never seen an elderly customer spoken to like that in front of so many other people. In her mind, she pleads for the manager to finally intervene. But Karen is nowhere to be found. Daniel simply says, I will. The statement is cryptic but firm. Tyler furrows his brow, confusion mixing with annoyance. You will what? He snaps, a defensive edge in his voice. I'll do exactly that, Daniel replies. I'll take it up with management, if they ever decide to show up. There's a flicker in his eyes now, something that suggests a hidden authority. It's not the kind of look a random senior citizen would give a dismissive clerk. Tyler, for all his bluster, looks momentarily thrown off. Before he can respond, the next customer in line places their items on the belt. Tyler glances from the customer to Daniel and back again, forced to proceed with the transaction. The store's overhead announcement system crackles to life, calling for additional help at the front. Possibly, someone noticed the tension building and decided more staff were needed to keep lines moving. But Tyler's meltdown is far from over. He's so rattled by Daniel's presence and the unstoppable calm behind those eyes that he can't concentrate. Items ring up incorrectly. He has to void them. The customers grow impatient. It's a spiral he can't escape. And Daniel stands calmly at the periphery, waiting for that perfect moment to change Tyler's world forever. Daniel steps away briefly, giving Tyler just enough space to breathe. But that small reprieve only makes the cashier more anxious. He scans a few more customers, tries to crack a joke about difficult people to a middle-aged man who doesn't laugh. The energy in the store feels heavier now. Some customers are just trying to get on with their day, but many can't help noticing the simmering drama. Mia, in particular, is torn between wanting to comfort Daniel and wanting to avoid making Tyler's wrath worse. Eventually, Karen makes a half-hearted approach to the registers, presumably drawn by the sense of unrest. She sees Tyler scowling and Daniel lingering not too far away. She lifts her chin in a half-nod, as though acknowledging that something is off, but she doesn't bother asking any questions yet. Instead, she types something into a computer terminal near the customer service desk, occasionally glancing over at Tyler with a slight frown. It's unclear if she's going to address the issue or if she's just waiting to see if it resolves itself. At last, Tyler finishes with the final customer in his line, and for a moment, no one steps up. That leaves him face to face with Daniel once more. Daniel catches Karen's eye, then gestures politely in her direction. Is that your manager? He asks Tyler, his voice low but firm. Tyler nods curtly. Well, Daniel says, perhaps we should invite her over, Tyler sneers. Or you could, just let it go. I mean, what's the big deal? You got your groceries, right? A flicker of annoyance crosses Daniel's face, the first sign that Tyler's words have finally gotten under his skin. But still, he keeps his tone measured. Respect is the big deal, Daniel says. Common decency. How you treat customers, especially those who might need a little more time, that matters, Tyler snorts. Spare me the lecture, Grandpa, I've got real work to do. His voice is loud enough that a few passers-by gasp softly. Mia's eyes widen. She quickly looks at Karen to see if the manager heard that comment. Karen seems to notice the sudden hush, but still hesitates to step forward. Maybe she's uncertain how to handle such a blatant act of disrespect in front of everyone. Daniel sighs and steps away again, as though he's given Tyler one last chance to correct himself. But Tyler, in his arrogance, has blown it. And now, the reckoning is almost upon him. A few onlookers quietly speculate that Daniel might be preparing to file a major complaint or call the corporate office. What they don't know is that Daniel might not have to call anyone at all. He might simply beckon them in himself. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife, but for Tyler, the real shock is still on its way. Because Daniel isn't just an everyday shopper with nowhere else to be. He's someone with direct access to the most powerful decision-makers in the Harvest Garden. He's someone who has spent decades building a reputation and who holds more control over Tyler's future than the young man could ever realize. The only question is how far Tyler will push before Daniel decides enough is enough. Meanwhile, Tyler tries to maintain his facade of aloof confidence, but beads of sweat line his brow. He can feel the eyes of customers and employees on him, judging him, probably whispering about him. His attempts at small talk with the next customer fall flat, replaced by an awkward tension he can't quite shake. Every beep of the scanner reminds him that Daniel is still there, still watching, still calmly waiting. One might think Tyler would cool down, but instead, his mood grows stormier. He looks for an escape route, maybe a chance to switch registers, or go on break. But Karen hasn't ordered him to do so, and pride won't let him show weakness by stepping away on his own. His anger turns inward, fueling more negativity that's bound to burst outward if someone else makes the mistake of being too slow or taking up too much of his time. Daniel notices everything. He sees Tyler's clenched jaw, the subtle way his hands grip the register countertop, the forced smile at approaching customers. Daniel doesn't seem to take pleasure in watching Tyler squirm, but he doesn't move to relieve him of the tension either. Instead, Daniel stands there like a silent sentinel, the living embodiment of consequences waiting to happen. That's when Mia decides she's had enough. She finishes helping her last customer and then steps over to Tyler's station, positioning herself between him and Daniel. "Tyler," she says softly, "can I talk to you for a second?" Tyler glances at her with obvious annoyance. "What?" he snaps. Mia glances at Daniel, then back at Tyler. "Let's just take a minute, okay? It seems like things are getting a little heated." Tyler rolls his eyes. "I'm busy." Mia shifts uncomfortably. She's not bold enough to scold Tyler in front of everyone, but she's trying to defuse the situation. "The manager might want to talk to you," she offers. "Maybe it's best if you take a quick break." Tyler scoffs. "Manager? Where?" He looks over at Karen, who is now eyeing them from behind the customer service desk but not moving. "She's not doing anything," Tyler mutters. "So don't tell me what to do." Mia, cheeks burning, glances apologetically at Daniel. She mouths a silent, "I'm sorry." Daniel nods, acknowledging her effort. He realizes she's trying in her own small way to manage a situation that's spiraling out of control. For Tyler, however, this is just another interruption, another annoyance preventing him from breezing through the day. He's too caught up in his own frustration to see that Mia is trying to help him save face, to keep him from digging a deeper hole. That hole, though, is about to cave in on him, because Daniel is finished giving Tyler chances. The older man steps closer, just enough to draw Tyler's attention again. "I think we've all had enough of this," Daniel says calmly. Tyler spins toward him. "Oh yeah," his voice drips with derision. "Gonna keep preaching to me about how to treat customers? Go ahead, see if I care." The store goes noticeably quieter. Even a few staff members from the produce section pause to see what's happening. Tyler's outburst is far from professional, and it's loud enough that it's impossible to ignore now. The tension has reached a boiling point. Daniel's expression remains composed, but his voice takes on an edge of finality. "I'm done preaching, son," he says. "Now it's time for consequences." Before Tyler can sneer or roll his eyes again, Daniel reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone. With a few quick taps, he sends a message. Simple, direct. He raises the phone to his ear, speaks softly, and ends the call. Tyler watches with a confused frown, uncertain what to make of this. But when Daniel pockets his phone again, there's a certainty in his posture that sets Tyler on edge. "What are you doing?" Tyler demands. Daniel doesn't answer. Instead, he casts a final glance at Karen, who finally peels her eyes from her phone and begins to walk over, a look of apprehension on her face. Mia, noticing this, also takes a step back, bracing herself for whatever's about to unfold. Customers start whispering even more, and a sense of anticipation pulses through the crowd. Something big is about to go down, and no one knows exactly how it will play out. But Daniel does, and Tyler is seconds away from realizing his worst nightmare has just walked into the building. Aish. It starts with the heavy glass doors at the front of the store sliding open. 3 men in tailored suits step inside, scanning the aisles. Their presence is immediately noticeable. These aren't random shoppers. They walk with purpose, scanning the store layout until they spot Daniel by the registers. Without hesitation, they approach. The staff behind the bakery counter exchange puzzled looks, and a few customers step aside to let the suited men pass. Karen stops in her tracks when she sees them. Her mouth opens as if to speak, but nothing comes out. She knows who they are. They're corporate executives from the Harvest Gardens main office. Suddenly, she's all too aware that something serious is happening. Tyler, on the other hand, looks at the men with a mix of confusion and slight concern, but he doesn't make the connection yet. Daniel glances at the 3 suits, who nod respectfully in his direction. One of them, a stern-faced man with graying temples, leans in and quietly asks Daniel, "Sir, would you like us to wait for the official word or proceed immediately?" Tyler hears this, his brow furrowing. Why would corporate executives defer to an old man like that? Daniel gives a small smile. "Wait just a moment," he says. "I'd like the manager to join us first." He glances at Karen, whose face has drained of color. She quickly shoves her phone into her pocket and comes forward. Hello?" she stammers, looking at Daniel and then at the executives. "Is there something I can help you with?" Daniel turns his calm gaze on her. "Yes," he replies. "You can start by explaining why your employee here feels free to treat customers with open disrespect." He gestures toward Tyler, who's starting to look pale himself. Tyler tries to muster some bravado. "What is this?" he snaps. "Are you guys with management or something?" The executive with graying temples looks at Tyler, eyes narrowed. "You could say that. We're here at the request of Mr. Whitmore." Tyler's forehead wrinkles. "Who's Mr. Whitmore?" The executive gestures to Daniel, and Tyler's eyes flicker in sudden comprehension. "Wait, you mean him?" Tyler sounds stunned, and a few customers and staff murmur in surprise. Karen steps in. "Daniel Whitmore she sputters, trying to find her words. Daniel speaks for her. "I'm the majority shareholder and principal owner of the Harvest Garden," he says quietly. "I inherited this chain from my father, built it up, and entrusted people like you," he points at Karen, "to maintain a standard of respect for both staff and customers." The entire store goes silent, save for the distant hum of cooler fans and the beep of a faraway scanner. Tyler's jaw drops, and he stares at Daniel, as if seeing him for the first time. The older man in the neatly pressed shirt isn't just some random retiree with too much free time. He's the owner of the entire establishment. In a single heartbeat, Tyler's rude commentary, eye-rolling and mocking behavior take on a new light. He's been insulting the man who signs his paychecks, the one who can decide his future at the company with a single word. Karen pales even more. She tries to salvage the situation. "Sir, I didn't realize you were visiting today. If I had known—" Daniel holds up a hand, silencing her. "That's precisely the point. I wanted to see the day-to-day operations without the usual pageantry. Clearly, I've seen enough." He turns his gaze to Tyler, who shrinks back slightly, sweat beading on his forehead. Mia looks on from the sidelines, her heart pounding. She almost can't believe what's happening. The man Tyler humiliated turns out to be the owner himself. Mia feels a combination of relief and nervous anticipation for the fallout about to occur. Meanwhile, a smattering of customers who lingered begin to murmur in excitement. A few of them look downright gleeful that Tyler's about to get his comeuppance. Daniel steps forward. "Tyler, isn't it?" he says, his voice measured but unmistakably authoritative. Tyler nods, swallowing hard. "Yes, sir," he manages. Daniel regards him steadily. "I was standing in your line trying to pay for my groceries and you treated me, an elderly man, like I was an inconvenience unworthy of basic courtesy. You rolled your eyes, mocked me, and dismissed me in front of other customers." Tyler opens his mouth to protest, but the memory is too fresh, and there are too many witnesses. He looks around at the gathering crowd, searching for support, but finds only disapproving faces. Karen clears her throat, trying to intervene. "I'm sure Tyler didn't mean to be rude. He's just been under a lot of pressure." Daniel shakes his head, cutting her off again. "Pressure or not, that's no excuse for openly disrespecting customers, especially vulnerable ones. And what's worse, I witnessed you," he points to Karen, "ignoring the situation entirely while one of your cashiers blatantly humiliated a paying customer. That reflects poorly on you and your leadership." Karen's jaw tightens. She glances at the executives, hoping for a lifeline, but they look impassive, letting Daniel take the lead. Tyler's mind races. Part of him wants to lash out, to defend himself by pointing out how slow Daniel was being, or how other customers sometimes give him attitude. But he knows that would dig him in deeper. Another part of him wants to apologize profusely, maybe even beg. But looking at Daniel's calm yet resolute expression, Tyler senses it might be too late for that. This isn't a polite request for better behavior. This is the moment of accountability. Daniel nods to the executive with the graying temples. The man steps forward and says, "Mr. Whitmore, shall I proceed with the standard protocol?" Tyler looks even more alarmed. "Wait, standard protocol for what?" he blurts out. Daniel answers, "For corrective action regarding employees who violate our code of conduct." The hush among the onlookers deepens. Tyler looks at Karen, silently pleading for help, but she appears just as cornered as he is. Karen attempts a final defense. "Sir, if you'll just give me a chance to discipline him internally, we can—" Daniel's gaze sharpens. "Discipline him? Like how you disciplined his behavior earlier, when he was humiliating me and other customers?" The rhetorical question stings. Karen drops her head, acknowledging her failure to intervene. Daniel's voice remains calm but firm. "If you had stepped in immediately, if you had shown any concern for the customer's experience, maybe this conversation would be different. But you didn't." The gatherers look on with a sense of righteous satisfaction. Some of them were belittled by Tyler in the past or witnessed him doing it to others. Seeing the store's owner here in person, handing down judgment, feels like justice. Mia stands near the edge of the crowd, her hands clasped together, hoping that the outcome will mean better days for employees who actually care about respectful service. The moment for official condemnation arrives. The executive with graying temples reads from a small notepad, listing out Tyler's infractions. Open disrespect toward a customer, violation of courtesy protocols, repeated rudeness, and disruptive behavior on the sales floor. Each charge lands like a hammer, and Tyler's face goes from pale to red to pale again. Before he can stammer a response, Daniel adds, "And I witnessed every bit of it firsthand." Tyler's shoulders slump. He stares at the floor, a mixture of shame and rage swirling behind his eyes. But he can't lash out now. His job is on the line. Karen, recognizing the severity of the moment, tries one last time to salvage her own position. "Mr. Whitmore, I take full responsibility for not stepping in earlier," she begins, her voice trembling. "But if you'll allow me to correct this, I promise—" Daniel sighs. "Karen, I'm sorry, but you've shown me that you're not willing to enforce the standards we set. A manager who can't address a clear problem in real time isn't a manager I can trust." Karen's face flushes. She looks at the ground, knowing what's coming. The corporate executives exchange a glance and nod. "Effective immediately," the man with the notepad says. Your position as floor manager is terminated. Please, collect your belongings and follow us to finalize the paperwork. A hush falls over the store. The manager fired on the spot. Tyler's eyes widen. If that's what's happening to Karen, what fate awaits him? He tries to step back, but Daniel motions for him to remain where he is. And as for you, Tyler, Daniel begins, but Mia suddenly speaks up, her voice trembling with both nerves and conviction. Mr. Whitmore, can I say something? All eyes turn to her. Tyler scowls at her, but she doesn't back down. He's been like this for a while, she says, her voice stronger now. I've seen him belittle customers, especially older folks. I didn't know how to report it because Karen never listened. A ripple of agreement passes through a few other employees who have gathered. It's clear Tyler's attitude has been an open secret. Daniel considers Mia carefully, appreciating her courage to speak up. Tyler throws her a furious look, as if blaming her for his downfall. You traitor, he mumbles, but Mia refuses to be intimidated. She stands with her shoulders squared. Daniel nods. Thank you for telling me, he says to her. Then he turns back to Tyler. I have no place in my company for someone who can't treat the people we serve with basic respect. Effective immediately, you are dismissed from your position. Return your uniform, clock out, and leave the premises. It's the final blow. Tyler's mouth opens, but no sound comes out. The store resonates with the shock of the official dismissal. Some customers quietly cheer or clap in approval, others merely watch, satisfied that justice has been served. Mia exhales, relieved, while Karen looks on in despair, knowing she too has lost her position. The corporate executives close in, prepared to escort Tyler and Karen to the office to finalize the termination process. Tyler, who spent the day belittling others and mocking an old man, now stands humiliated before the entire store, undone. By his own arrogance, the sense of finality in the air is overwhelming. He tries to muster an argument, anything to defend himself, but the evidence is too damning, the witnesses too numerous. Not to mention, the man he insulted holds all the power. Eventually, Tyler lowers his head and mutters, "Fine," as he shoves his name tag across the counter. The crowd parts for him to walk away, and he marches out, face aflame. Karen trails after the corporate team, stammering weak excuses that do nothing to change her fate. A hush hangs over the store until the group disappears into a back hallway. Then, in the silence, Daniel looks around at the employees and customers still gathered. He sees Mia standing off to the side, uncertain what to do next. Her eyes meet his, and she offers him a shy, congratulatory nod as if to say, "Thank you for doing the right thing." Daniel nods back, acknowledging her sincerity. The shock of the confrontation lingers like a tangible aura in the store, but beneath it there's a sense of relief. A bully has been brought to justice. In the aftermath of Tyler's very public downfall, employees gather in small clusters to talk about what just happened. Some discuss how they've always hated his attitude, but never felt empowered to challenge him. Others share stories of how he's driven customers away with his scornful remarks. Meanwhile, Daniel stands near the customer service desk, answering a few questions from concerned staff members. They're worried about what this means for the store's management structure and whether there will be immediate changes. Daniel, however, assures them that all important announcements will come soon, emphasizing that their day-to-day work should continue as usual for now. Mia hovers nearby, uncertain if she should approach. She's just a cashier, after all, and while she did speak up, she's not sure if Daniel wants to hear more from her. One of the corporate executives notices her hesitation and beckons her over. "Mr. Whitmore," he says, "this young lady has been working diligently and even tried to intervene earlier." Daniel turns his attention to her, his expression thoughtful. "Mia, is it?" he asks softly. She nods, swallowing a knot of nerves in her throat. "Yes, sir," she replies. Daniel studies her face for a moment, recalling how she'd apologized to him during Tyler's meltdown. "I appreciate that you at least tried to help when you saw what was happening," he says. "You didn't have a position of power, but you did what you could." Mia feels her cheeks warming at the compliment. She shrugs slightly. It just didn't feel right to let him continue talking to you like that, she explains. And I've seen him do it to others too. Daniel nods, glancing at the executive. They exchange a brief look and then Daniel addresses Mia again. How long have you been working here, he asks. About 6 months, she answers. I really like the store and most of the customers are great. It's just, well, you saw how some things can be when the manager doesn't care. She glances around, lowering her voice. Karen never wanted to deal with conflict and Tyler took advantage of that. A small smile flickers across Daniel's face. 6 months, and you already have a good sense of what's right, he says. I wish that were more common. His gaze drifts across the store, where a few employees are tidying shelves and speaking in hushed tones about the drama. We need more people like you, people who aren't afraid to stand up for what's decent. Mia isn't sure how to respond, so she simply nods in gratitude. Daniel turns to the executive again, a man named Saunders, and says, make a note. I'd like to see how we can promote employees who demonstrate integrity and a willingness to do the right thing. Let's start with Mia. See if she's interested in a position with more responsibility. Mia's eyes go wide. She's just a cashier. She never even considered she could be in line for a promotion so soon. Saunders nods, scribbling in his notepad. Yes, Mr. Whitmore. We'll arrange a meeting. Suddenly Mia finds herself on the verge of tears, grateful, shocked, and overwhelmed all at once. She manages a shaky smile, murmuring, Thank you. I'd love the opportunity. I just want to make the store a better place for everyone. Daniel sets a gentle hand on her shoulder. That's exactly what we need, he says. Then, looking around at the onlooking staff, he raises his voice so that others can hear. Everyone, please do not let what happened today discourage you. Rather, let it remind you that we must always treat our customers and each other with respect. If you have any concerns, my team is here to listen. This store is supposed to be a community staple, a place where neighbors come to shop and feel welcome. I won't allow a few bad apples to spoil that. His words evoke a wave of relief. Some employees even clap softly, energized by the idea that upper management and the actual owner cares about their well-being and the store's environment. For too long, they've felt powerless under inattentive managers. Now, they sense change is in the air. Meanwhile, customers who stayed to watch the aftermath applaud Daniel's stance on respect and integrity. Some come up to him to say thank you, others to ask if the store will remain open under new management. Daniel assures them that the Harvest Garden isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's about to get better. Karen eventually emerges from the back office, eyes red and puffy, escorted by another corporate representative. She avoids meeting Daniel's gaze, but he acknowledges her with a nod, as if to say, what's done is done. Tyler is nowhere to be seen. He must have left the building in shame as soon as he handed over his uniform. The ripple effects of his behavior will be felt for a while, but for now the store is free of his toxic attitude. Mia looks around, feeling a sense of optimism. She catches Daniel's eye again. He gives her a kind smile, and she returns it. Life at the Harvest Garden will undoubtedly change. New managers, new accountability, new hope that disrespect like Tyler's won't be tolerated. The tension that hung in the air just an hour ago now dissipates, replaced by a cautious but growing sense of relief among employees and customers alike. In the wake of Tyler's public downfall, the Harvest Garden experiences a kind of rebirth. Word travels fast in the community. The store's owner himself arrived undercover and fired a rude employee who disrespected an elderly customer. Many customers who once silently endured Tyler's attitude or left the store in search of better service return now, curious and reassured that management is taking a stand. The aura of hostility that once hovered around certain registers is replaced by a renewed commitment to courtesy. Daniel remains on site for a while, speaking personally with employees, thanking them for their hard work and asking about the store's overall conditions. He learns that morale has been low for some time, partly due to managerial neglect, partly because a handful of problematic workers like Tyler never faced consequences. But he also discovers that many employees genuinely love working there, proud to be part of a local institution known for quality groceries and neighborly service. Mia plays tour guide of sorts. showing Daniel around the different departments. They stop by the bakery, where Daniel chats with a jovial baker who has been with the Harvest Garden for over 20 years. They walk through produce, marveling at the colorful array of fresh fruits and vegetables. Along the way, customers greet Daniel with polite nods, and when they learn he's the owner who just let go of Tyler, they smile in gratitude. One older woman who overheard part of the confrontation tells Daniel, "Thank you for standing up for us seniors. We don't always move fast, but we still deserve respect." Daniel pats her hand. "You do indeed," he replies. "I'll make sure that respect is part of our store culture." Meanwhile, Karen cleans out her desk in the back office, overshadowed by corporate staff who finalize her termination. She attempts to plead her case one final time, explaining that Tyler was always more trouble than he was worth, and that she simply felt overwhelmed. But the executives remain firm. A manager who can't intervene in such blatant, disrespectful behavior isn't suited for the role. With her official departure, the question arises as to who will step up to fill the management gap. That's when Mia's name comes up again. While she's too inexperienced to become a full manager immediately, Daniel sees promise in her integrity and willingness to speak up. The corporate team decides to appoint a temporary manager from another branch, someone with experience in turning around store culture, and to name Mia as an assistant manager, giving her a chance to learn and grow. When Daniel shares the news with her, she's speechless. I've never been in a leadership position before," she says, her eyes bright with both excitement and trepidation. Daniel smiles. "I have a feeling you'll do just fine," he assures her. "You showed today that you're not afraid to do the right thing, even when it's risky." Many employees congratulate Mia, patting her on the back and offering high fives. For some, it's a victory to see a kind, hard-working colleague get recognized instead of the usual office politics. Others realize that the store's owner personally rewarded her willingness to stand up to injustice, which signals a positive shift in the company's values. The sense of camaraderie grows, a far cry from the tension that was suffocating the aisles earlier in the day. As the evening wears on, Daniel wraps up his impromptu inspection. He meets with Saunders and the other executives near the main entrance. "I want a full report on how management hires are conducted in this region," he says. "We can't afford to have another Karen ignoring such blatant behavior. Our customers deserve better, and so do our employees." Saunders nods, jotting notes. "We'll get right on that, Mr. Whitmore," he assures him. Daniel turns to Mia, who has been lingering nearby, unsure if she's needed for further discussion. "Walk me out?" he asks. She nods eagerly, and together they head for the automatic doors. Shoppers part to let them pass, some offering friendly waves. Outside, the evening light casts long shadows across the parking lot. Daniel pauses near his car, a modest sedan that doesn't scream wealthy owner. "Mia," he says, turning to face her, "I want you to know that this isn't just about rewarding you for speaking up. It's about building a team of people who truly care. Keep that in mind. If you ever see something wrong, don't hesitate to address it or come to me if needed." Mia nods earnestly. "I will, sir," she replies. "Thank you again. I promise I won't let you down." Daniel smiles, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I have a feeling you won't," he says. With that, he climbs into his car and starts the engine. Mia takes a step back, watching him drive off into the fading light, feeling a renewed sense of purpose blooming in her chest. The Harvest Garden might look the same from the outside. Same building, same big windows, same name across the front. But inside, a shift has occurred. Tyler is gone, Karen has been dismissed, and employees sense that they matter more than just cogs in a machine. Customers feel safer, too, knowing that if someone disrespects them, there is leadership that cares enough to step in. And all of it traces back to the moment Tyler mocked an old man at checkout, never suspecting he was mocking the very person who owned the place. A few days later, the store hums with a new energy. Mia, now wearing a slightly different uniform that designates her assistant manager position, works alongside the temporary manager from a neighboring branch, a woman named Teresa, who has a reputation for fairness and high standards. Together, they retrain employees on customer service best practices. They introduce new guidelines for conflict resolution, ensuring that if a customer has a complaint, the employees know exactly how to handle it. Word spreads among patrons, and the Harvest Garden sees a modest increase in foot traffic. Regular shoppers who avoided Tyler's line return with relief. They see Mia in a leadership role and appreciate the friendlier environment. One by one, those who personally witnessed the confrontation stop by to congratulate Mia. Some are drawn to share their own stories of times they felt disrespected by store staff and are glad to see changes being made. Of course, not everyone is thrilled. A few of Tyler's cronies, friends he used to complain with during breaks, feel uneasy about the shift. They worry that stricter rules mean they can't relax or goof off. But Teresa addresses them patiently. This isn't about cracking down on harmless jokes in the break room. It's about ensuring everyone who enters the store, customer or employee, is treated with dignity. If you can't manage that, this isn't the job for you. The message is clear, and most employees, eager to keep their positions, adapt quickly. Meanwhile, Tyler's absence is barely felt. His role is easily covered by new hires or existing staff taking extra shifts. Rumors circulate that he's tried to complain about wrongful termination, but nobody gives those complaints much credence. Dozens of witnesses saw his behavior, and Daniel himself was the one who endured it. Karen, for her part, has quietly vanished from the local grocery management scene. No one knows where she'll end up next, but it's clear she won't be returning to the Harvest Garden. In the midst of all these changes, Daniel continues to check in periodically, sometimes quietly, sometimes more overtly. He's determined to ensure the store's transformation sticks. He also wants to see how Mia is doing. One afternoon he drops by unexpectedly. When employees recognize him, they greet him warmly, and he politely waves them off, saying he's just there to see how things are going. He finds Mia assisting a customer who needs help reaching an item on a high shelf. She spots Daniel from the corner of her eye and waves with a friendly smile. Once she's done helping the customer, she joins him. "Everything okay, Mr. Whitmore?" she asks. Daniel nods, looking around the store. "It looks wonderful," he replies, scanning the aisles to see employees greeting shoppers, restocking shelves, and maintaining an inviting ambiance. "How are you settling into the role?" Mia exhales a small laugh. "It's a lot to learn," she admits, "but Teresa is a great mentor. I'm taking it one day at a time." Daniel gives her a once-over, evaluating her confidence and composure. "I'm glad to hear it," he says. "I wanted to let you know that we'll be doing some structural reorganization at the corporate level. We need to ensure management reflects our core values. That means more opportunity for people like you." Mia's eyes widen. She can't believe how quickly her life has changed. "Thank you," she says, genuinely moved. "I promise to continue doing my best." Daniel places a reassuring hand on her shoulder again, just as he did the day he fired Tyler and Karen. "I know you will," he says softly. Then his expression grows thoughtful. "It's funny, isn't it? A few days ago, I was just a man, in line trying to buy groceries, and now here we are." Mia smiles, thinking about how surreal it all is. "I'm just glad you came when you did," she says. "If you hadn't, Tyler would still be here and no one would have done anything about it." Daniel's gaze drifts, recalling that day. "I'm grateful you stood up for me," he says. "Most would have just looked the other way." The conversation is cut short by a customer needing assistance. Mia excuses herself to help, and Daniel watches with satisfaction as she offers the person a kind smile and walks them to the product they're seeking. This is the culture he wants to foster, a place where employees feel empowered to do the right thing, where a rude outburst is corrected immediately, not ignored, where even the most vulnerable customers, like seniors who move slowly or need extra assistance, are treated with dignity. Daniel wanders the store for another half hour, sampling a piece of fresh fruit, chatting briefly with an older employee who remembers working under Daniel's father decades ago. He leaves with a lighter heart, knowing the Harvest Garden is on a better path. The specter of Tyler's cruelty no longer darkens the aisles. Some weeks later, the store hosts a small customer appreciation event, free samples, a bake sale for a local charity, and even a small raffle. Mia helps coordinate the event, showcasing her newfound organizational skills. Teresa oversees the entire operation, but she frequently praises Mia's natural leadership abilities. The atmosphere is cheerful, bustling with families and seniors enjoying a laid-back shopping experience. Daniel makes a brief appearance, greeting customers with genuine warmth. Many of them recognize him from the Tyler incident and smile in acknowledgement, grateful that a store owner would care enough to personally intervene. Some share their personal thanks, describing how the environment feels more welcoming now that rude employees aren't tolerated. Daniel listens attentively, each compliment reaffirming that he made the right call. At one point, Daniel steps aside for a moment to observe the staff in action, everyone from the new manager to the part-time high school employees. He notices how Mia demonstrates bagging techniques to a newly hired teen, patiently explaining how to organize items so they're easy for customers to carry. He sees another employee bring water to an elderly woman who looks fatigued after walking the aisles. He spots a small circle of kids marveling at the candy display, and an employee kneels down to speak to them at eye level, offering free stickers. It's the kind of genuine customer care Daniel always wanted the Harvest Garden to be known for. The raffle drawing starts, and Mia uses a small microphone to announce winning ticket numbers. People cheer, laugh, and clap for those who claim prizes. The sense of togetherness stands in stark contrast to the tension-laden day that brought Daniel out of anonymity and revealed Tyler's cruelty. Tyler, the manager Karen, now distant memories. In their place is a team that actually cares, led by a bright young woman who never expected to be more than a cashier. After the raffle ends, Daniel sneaks up behind Mia and playfully taps her shoulder. She turns, smiling. "Enjoying the event, Mr. Whitmore?" she asks. Daniel nods. "Immensely," he responds. "You've done a fantastic job with this. I'm proud of the direction the store is taking." Mia beams, feeling both bashful and proud. "Thank you," she says. "It's a team effort, really." Daniel grins. "You know, humility is another quality that makes a great leader." Mia can't hide the blush creeping across her cheeks. "Well, I'm learning from the best," she says, and Daniel lets out a small chuckle. The appreciation event continues smoothly, but eventually Daniel decides it's time to head back to the main office. Before he leaves, he calls the staff together, at least those who can step away from their stations for a moment, and addresses them briefly. "I just want you all to know," he begins, projecting his voice so everyone can hear, "that this store is more than a business to me. It's part of my family's legacy. Seeing it thrive, seeing you all treat each other and our customers with respect, is exactly what my father wanted when he established the Harvest Garden. Thank you for making it possible." He then turns specifically to Mia. "And Mia, thank you for taking on more responsibility. I'm hearing great feedback from everyone. Keep up the good work." A small applause rises from the employees and the nearby crowd of customers. Mia dips her head humbly. Daniel waves goodbye, heading toward the exit with a sense of immense satisfaction. He can leave the store in these capable hands, confident that the episode with Tyler will remain just that. An episode not the defining characteristic of the Harvest Garden. Hati Omerito. The day eventually winds down, the event wrapping up with a handful of content shoppers lingering over last-minute purchases. Employees begin to clean up, discarding leftover sample cups and packing away tables. Mia supervises, making sure everything is put back in order. In the back of her mind, she reflects on how surreal it all is. Just a short time ago, she was an unnoticed cashier, scanning items and trying not to step on Tyler's toes. Now she's helping lead the store to a new era of positive customer service. As closing time nears, the memory of Tyler's sneering face resurfaces briefly. She recalls how he used to laugh at her for taking the job too seriously, for being polite to demanding customers, but that ironically turned out to be the quality that set her apart, her willingness to be kind and stand up against bullying. Tyler thought he could mock an old man in public, but that old man turned out to be the owner himself. The irony still sends a slight chill through Mia's spine. She wonders if Tyler regrets his actions, or if he's still blaming everyone but himself. No matter, the store is better off without him. Karen, too, fades into distant memory, an absentee manager who never took the time to protect customers or employees from Tyler's venom. Life moves forward, and the Harvest Garden is thriving under new management. Mia suspects Daniel will continue to check in occasionally, maybe unannounced, to ensure that the standards of respect are being upheld. She welcomes the idea. It's reassuring to know the boss genuinely cares. Throughout it all, the moral is impossible to ignore. Respect matters, no matter how busy or stressed you are. Tyler learned that lesson the hard way, in a public and humiliating fashion that ensures he won't soon forget. And Daniel reaffirmed his own commitment to the values his family instilled in him: treat people well, stand up against injustice, and never look down on someone just because they move a little slower. When the last customer leaves, Mia locks the doors. The overhead lights dim, leaving only the glow from the display cases. She walks through the aisles one last time, checking everything. In her mind, the store feels new again, revived. Staff. Members clock out, exchanging goodbyes and well wishes. Each time Mia hears them call her manager, she feels a jolt of pride and responsibility. She's determined to do right by them and by Daniel. Outside, the night air is cool and Mia breathes it in deeply. She gazes at the illuminated sign for the harvest garden, reflecting on how much changed in such a short span of time. It all traces back to that single moment when Tyler decided to mock an elderly customer without considering the consequences. The moment he let his worst impulses out, never imagining that the frail older man with kind eyes held the power to fire him on the spot. Some might call it poetic justice, others might see it as a cautionary tale. For Mia, it's proof that doing the right thing sometimes gets rewarded, and that bullies often dig their own graves. She slides into her car, starts the engine, and sits for a moment, letting the events of the past few weeks settle in her mind. She thinks of the relief on customers' faces, the new positivity among her co-workers, and Daniel's unwavering belief that the store can be better. A soft smile crosses her lips. It's a good feeling knowing that kindness and respect prevailed. Pulling out of the parking lot, she glances back at the store one last time for the night, the glowing letters looking almost like a beacon in the dark. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, more lines, more personalities, more potential conflicts. But after seeing how quickly justice can be served when the right people stand up, Mia is more confident than ever that they can handle anything thrown their way. In the end, Tyler lost his job, Karen lost her position, and the harvest garden gained a fresh start. Daniel, the unassuming older gentleman who was mocked simply for moving at his own pace, turned out to be the key to sparking real change. Sometimes people forget that you never truly know who you're talking to, or what they might be capable of, for better or worse. In this case, it was for the better, much, much better. The store stands as a testament to what can happen when the truth comes out and arrogance is humbled. One rude employee learned a lesson, and an entire workplace culture shifted toward respect and decency. And that, truly, is something worth celebrating.